Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us for today's awareness session on the subcontracting matching scheme. We welcome all of you, and we thank you for making time to join, to listen into the program. We give you all thumbs up for joining us. We are grateful for joining us. This is WACOMP, the West Africa Competitiveness Program, which is financed by the EU and implemented in Ghana by UNIDO. This morning, as I have already said, it's a time to talk briefly about our subcontracting matching scheme. The subcontracting matching scheme is part of the program's outputs. It falls within the fit output of the project. And so this morning we would be basically talking about it, giving participants and attendees who have joined an insight into all that the subcontracting matching scheme is all about. This is our second call. The first call was done early this year. We'll take you through as we start the presentation of what has been done. Basically, the target audience for this webinar or for this awareness session is for all associations, all project stakeholders, and then also institutions that provide and are willing to provide services within the subcontracting matching scheme principles. So the reason for organizing this as an online program is we are aware due to COVID challenges, we cannot have a face-to-face session. So we're organizing this and we thank you all for joining in. On the bottom of the screen, you have the Q&A session. So as the presentation goes on, if you have any question for clarification, kindly put it up there, and at the appropriate time, we'll be able to take it. We have our EU team with us, so we have Georgios who will give us opening remarks. We also have Moti, unfortunately cannot join. Our friend from Moti, our partner, has other emergencies equally important, so he cannot join us. But we have the program manager in Vienna, Juan Pablo, who would also give us a few comments. So without taking too much time so that we move on right into business, I hand over to Georgios from the EU to give us his opening remarks. Georgios, welcome.
Thank you very much. 1 minute. Thank you very much, Charles, for the introductory remarks. My name is Georgios Chopanakis, and I'm a Program Officer of in the Economics and Trade section at the European Union delegation to Ghana. A large part of the work that we do at the European Union delegation to Ghana is to try to help Ghanaian businesses flourish, to move forward. We have several projects related to this initiative on pushing Ghanaian businesses into developing, flourishing, and entering regional and eventually international markets. And one of these is the West African Competitiveness Program. This program is a regional program, so it is implemented in several countries, not only in Ghana, but ourselves today, we are interested on Ghana, and we have the West African Competitiveness Program for Ghana. So it is a large program. The European Union contribution is 6.2 million euros. It's a 4-year program, and we already have concluded the first year. The program is implemented by UNIDO, who is also having a small financial contribution of 150,000 euros. And Charles, the person who spoke to you, together with other very competent project members, project officers, they implement the project on the ground. UNIDO has designed and implemented the project. The European Union has consulted UNIDO on how to design it and also is financing the project. To move very quickly and to not waste your time a lot to the grant scheme that you are all here today and you are interested in. The grant scheme, as Charles mentioned, is one of the outputs of the program, of the overall program, and one is the grant scheme. The overall program, which is implemented by UNIDO, in very simple words, has to do with support of SMEs, Ghanaian SMEs, which are focusing on cassava, fruits, and cosmetics. So you will see at the presentation what it's all about. And it's about linking, supporting these companies with capacity development, some technology maybe, linking them with bigger companies along the value chains of these three areas that I mentioned, and potentially pushing them towards export promotion. So it's about making their products better, more competitive, and then being a more substantial part, these SMEs, these Ghanaian SMEs, of the value chains, of these three value chains that we are focusing on, and you will see at the presentation. So the granting scheme is a part of our project. The granting scheme has a lot to do. Its focus is we provide some grants, the 80% of grants for ideas that you might submit to us. And if we like the ideas and they are related to our project, they are related to value chains, they are related to strengthening SMEs, then we finance up to 80% of your idea. Then you need to submit several reports and so on. You will see how we go through the presentation. So this granting scheme is an opportunity for associations, businesses that they are related to, bigger clusters and so on, to actually access this granting scheme and implement innovative methods, capacity building within the companies, within the associations, strengthen linkages in the SME sector in these three value chains that I mentioned: cassava, fruits and cosmetics products. This is the second round of the granting scheme that we do it. I can only give you one tip. When you submit your applications, don't submit the application just for your own, for the sake of getting the access to money, because you will fail the application. Also, please don't submit the application in order to necessarily promote only your own capacities of your organization. It doesn't work like that. You need to show that your application has larger effects in the sector that you are. Finally, submit applications that have a bit innovative ideas. Let me repeat this. Please submit applications that have a bit of innovative ideas. Don't submit applications with expensive trainings, because they will not be accepted. Please note these things down, because this is very important. In your application, show some ingenuity, put a lot of effort, even on how you present something, avoid typos and everything. Everything plays a role. Everything plays a role in an application. So please try to be innovative and try to show some continuation and some relevance on what you're doing and the wider effects that the grant can help you with. Thank you very much, Charles, and participants. Charles, you are muted.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Georgios, for giving us such comprehensive and frank guidelines. And so I'm very certain the participants appreciate what you've said. So I hand over to our program manager, Juan Pablo, to also give us his welcome remarks. Pablo.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Georgios, for those words. I think you were looking at my notes, so my intervention will be shorter. I think the key messages were already highlighted by Georgios. I would like to thank all the participants for taking the time to come to this webinar. I hope that you really reap out the benefits of the webinar and reap out the benefits of this matching scheme that we have. This is an innovative idea for UNIDO, and it has been in the development, as Georgios mentioned, to be piloted in this WACOMP Ghana. This is an opportunity, as it was mentioned, for the associations to benefit and to contribute. I think it's very important, as it was mentioned, not only look at what you can get out, but also when you can give, when you're doing your proposals, what you can give to the project objective. So it is an opportunity to benefit and to contribute to the project objectives. Please ask questions. There is a team that will support answering your questions, clarifying areas. If there is an area that cannot be clarified immediately, we can come back to you to clarify. So please listen attentively to the presentations. And once more, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Juan Pablo, for the welcome, and also thank you, Georgios. So we would now zoom in directly into the presentations. Thank you very much. So as we've said earlier on, this is the West Africa Competitiveness Program, WACOMP. It's the second call for the subcontracting matching scheme. The presentation now, I will give an overview of WACOMP. We'll talk a brief about the first call, what happened. We would also talk about the objectives and priority issues, with stress on the rules, and then we will have a Q&A session. As has already been said by Georgios, this is an overall objective of WACOMP. It is a regional program, it is a big program, and the specific objective one is to improve the performance and growth contributions to industry and regional trade and export for selected value chains. And at the country level, we are looking at competitiveness at firms level to be improved through a cluster approach. I'll briefly talk about the cluster approach as we also go ahead. We're also looking at intermediate organizations of selected value chains. And in Ghana, as you're all aware, we're talking about three main value chains. We're talking about cassava and its derivatives. We're talking about fruits. Specifically, we are interested in pineapples and mangoes. And then we also talk about cosmetics and personal care products. So we want to see the intermediate organizations deliver services to these SMEs to improve their services so that they will also be able to expand their quality and also find new ways of doing things. We want to expand our market. We want to look at better access to markets, improved access, and we also want to see quality products moving out, which will now contribute to the regional level where we talk of a better or improved regional linkages among selected value chains. So we want to see our cassava actors, our fruits actors, and our cosmetic actors within the regional level also having some level of interaction so that we'll be able to improve the sector. We also want to improve the climate for business for national and regional levels. So here we talk about regional policies at the country level in favor of competitiveness that will be mainstream into the country and also help create a business-friendly environment. That will also translate into that regional policy and make sure that we are able to provide. For WACOMP specifically, we are looking at strengthening the export competitiveness of the Ghanaian economy through value-added sustainable production and processing, all aimed at increased access to regional markets. So whatever we do is about value addition. It's about sustainable production technologies, production techniques that will be used, that will sustain our production between this year and the years ahead of us. We have some diagrams to show. So you see in the picture, we have cassava, you have cosmetics, we have all value addition and value capturing along the way. WACOMP aims to improve the quality of products, either for exports and also integration into the regional and global value chains. We say we work with a story and we have a very beautiful approach. We say the 5 C's of competitiveness that UNIDO applies. And so we also would want this to be a guiding principle. If you understand this, just as Georgios have said, my program manager have said, it guides us into how to move. So our first C is coordinate. We seek to promote dialogue and synergies within various value chains through strategic committees. So within the project, we have 3 strategic value chain committees, one for fruits, pineapple and mango. We have one for cosmetics and personal care products, and another for our cassava value chain. These strategic members sit and discuss issues and find how we can collaborate and find synergies with other private and public sector actors to make sure the value chains are enhanced. Our second C, we talk about compete. And here we're looking at developing the competitive manufacturing capabilities by upgrading SMEs to clusters. The main challenge we have with most of our SMEs we work with is we want to do all by ourselves. And interestingly, on Monday, when we did the bookkeeping webinar, this statement was captured by one participant who said that when you start a business, you are the driver, you are the salesperson, you are the cleaner, you are one man thousand, as we say in Ghana. And so once we begin the business, we still want to grow the business on our own without working with others. And we're saying that there's a very good saying that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together, you go with other people. We want to enhance big businesses going together, having a cluster approach so that within a cosmetic cluster, either in Accra, in the Middle Belt or in the Southern Belt, same for, we'll be able to work together, find collective interest that will be able to work and develop our products too. We also want to talk about conform. Here we're talking about standards. Interestingly, if your products do not meet the necessary quality standards, you cannot break into new markets. You cannot break into existing and emerging markets. So now we want our products to be either FDA registered, GSA certified, and we also work in the same sense, also supporting the regulatory institutions. Whatever you produce in value chain, it said that whatever you produce, if you do not sell, you never make money. So we also connect. And connect, we're looking at connectivity to markets by strengthening marketing capacities. We work closely with Ghana Export Promotion Authority. And then we also want to find any other avenue, either from the private sector or the public sector, where our actors will be able to sell their products so they can get income from whatever they do. Our fifth C is a credit, and this is where the subcontracting matching scheme sits. So this is about linking SMEs to financial institutions to access appropriate and affordable credit schemes. So we seek to work with this. And in the same credits, that's where I say the subcontracting matching scheme is, and we'll talk detail about that. Who are some of our stakeholders? As we can see clearly, our stakeholders are the actors within these three value chains. And as we see, we have all our stakeholders listed here. If you don't find yourself after this presentation, please get in touch and we'll find you here. You have AGI, you have Soil Research, PPRSD, all the actors are clearly listed here. These are our stakeholders. So thankfully, we are zeroing in onto the subcontracting matching scheme. What are the objectives of the subcontracting matching scheme and the targets? Basically, we are looking at project objectives. So everything we do must be related, but not limited to what I'm going to talk about. And I like what Giorgio said in the beginning. He said we must be innovative. We must come along with things, think outside the box. It's not only about training. So we're saying that opening new markets, increasing exports to regional and international markets. So if you want to apply, bring a proposal that is going to talk about how our products will move into new markets, how cosmetics or cassava derivatives or fruits will break into the regional and international markets. Tell us how you're going to help a cluster or existing cluster, emerging clusters, increase the quality of the products that they have. We have a lot of products, but again, we want products that meet international standards. So come and bring a proposal that would work in this direction. We also talk about increasing productivity through training and personnel development. Tell us how you can help with a proposal that would achieve this one. Fostering intra-regional cooperation to enhance productivity and capitalize on economies of scale. What can we do within the cluster that would help us if we're producing, two firms are producing 500 bottles or 200 bottles or 50 bottles? How can we work together and produce 1,000 bottles to access a bigger market? We want you to bring us ideas that would encourage cluster development and upskill SMEs capacity. Come along and join us with such ideas. Ideas that when we see the proposal, we would stand and we'll clap for you. And make sure that all the required rules fall in that line. We're also talking about promoting programs which would impact on underdeveloped areas or disadvantaged sectors within the sector. So if we take any of the clusters, be it cassava, be it fruits, and be it cosmetics, and your proposal also drives us towards a rural area development and in the perspective of gender and youth. I think that is also something that we want to look at. So who are we targeting? Is it for everybody? Can I, as Charles Saki, write and say, yes, I also want, there's money. Giorgio said, people hear money and we want to come. Is it just about money or you have something to do? So our targeted audience are institutions and business support organizations. We're talking about professional associations in Ghana, as well as clusters and networks with the necessary competence and experience to provide these services. So this is not for a consulting firm to say, I'm going to do this. This is not for, it's, these are the targets. If you are a unit, an SME, you should demonstrate that whatever you want to apply with would inure to the benefit of a bigger cluster. If you are able to demonstrate that, you would be considered in that sense. So the focus of the application, we are saying that it could include workshops, studies, events, campaigns, but not limited to the domains of. So here we're talking about competitiveness. So whatever you look at or you present, we should be looking at supporting SMEs and firms in their collective, the word is collective efforts to improve their service delivery and upgrading schemes. Like we had said earlier, everything should be within the cluster. It should be going together and not running too fast, but bring others along so that we can support the SMEs' collective efforts. It's about strengthening linkages among producers and processors and facilitate cooperation in the targeted value chain. So if we are actors within the fruit value chain, within the cassava value chain, within the cosmetics value chain, what can we do? The application focus can come along in these areas so that it prepares the group for greater works in future. We're also talking about training SMEs and building capacities in technical and managerial areas in the clusters. So if we find a cluster that you think that what will trigger growth and development within the cluster is technical and managerial training, then you could also present something to us. We also want to strengthen technological capacity for the SMEs to collectively upgrade their processing expertise and help improve processing techniques. So if we are a cluster of cosmetic actors or fruit actors, and we find that we need a machinery, a joint use facility that can be placed within our working area, that we would all come, let me say out of the blue, use a machine and say we need a carping machine. And we think that if we write this proposal and we have a carping machine, it would enhance our productivity, enhance our quality and the times of producing our products. Then you could also write that and present so that you also must show clearly that whatever you are presenting works in line with everybody. Please note that management and regular trainings will not be supported as a main application. So there are some organizations that all you do is you do regular trainings and you have normal management things that you do. Don't move your responsibility to us and expect WACOMP to fund that. So examples of some of the activities, as we have said, we could also talk about compliance. That's about our third C, conformity, assessing of quality needs and implement interventions along the chain. You could come and tell us that, look, our main issue is that we need, as an association, we need support to get our members to get FDA certification. And that alone can help us break into new markets. It can help us break even into the Ghanaian market and move on to much more expensive shells. So that is something that we really would want to consider. You could also tell us that our members are aware of standards, but we really need to get it down to all members. So you could want to organize direct training or do something in dissemination of standards amongst your members. That can also be done. Also assisting processors to implement right standards. So we have GMPs, you have ISO standards, that if you do not have GMPs, bottom line, you cannot move into certain areas. So please, let's get that in mind. And once I talk about GMPs, let me remind you that tomorrow, God willing, we would have a webinar on good manufacturing practices. So let's come and listen so that it even helps you shape your ideas into what you want to look out for. And also we come to our connectivity, which is our fourth C. We should be able to link SMEs to processes, to high-end markets. It's not always that you want to sell on tabletops. You can sell in MaxMart, you can sell in ShopRite, you can sell in other areas, you can sell in some duty-free shops. It depends on how you package your thing. Bring a proposal that you tell us how you want products from a cluster to move into a market. Linking SMEs to international market. We want to see our products beyond the borders of Ghana, within the regional market and across the international market. You also would want to do some studies to benchmark some analysis that would help us develop and think in a particular way. Help in terms of developing promotional and marketing tools. These are some things that we can always talk about. Let me now take us through some of the guiding principles. Our key guiding principle for this subcontracting matching scheme is best value for money. So when we have 5 proposals, one of the key criteria we would want to consider, is it giving us best? You see, we didn't say value for money. It could all be value for money, but if you are giving your money to somebody, you would want to be sure you are giving it not to the good, not to the better, but to the best. So we want best value for money. So that should be up to you. As you sit to write, to evaluate your documents, and you put your ideas in, please make sure whatever you bring in is best value for money. No, it's a competition open in Ghana to all sectors, the 3 sectors. So people are writing, you have to come up with something that is good. We want sustainability of proposed projects. We don't want a project that you're going to do with WACOMP's money, and then beyond 6 months of completion, when we visit your project site, or there's nothing to show. We want something, if you buy in a machine, there should be plans of sustaining that joint user facility. There should be plans of market sustainability. There should be enough plans to convince us that whatever we are doing is not just for today, but it's for tomorrow and beyond. We want collective benefits for cluster development. So like we said, it's not only for you as an enterprise that I get up to this amount and I'm gone. No, we want others to also develop, so that if others develop, then is the probability of sustaining itself and living long, it's higher. You should also be mindful that whatever you do, you have also co-contribution of at least up to 20%. So that is something you also would have to have in mind. Whatever amount you ask for, the matching component is up to 80% of the total proposal. So these are key principles we want you to be mindful of. And the main rules are that at least we will launch 2 calls per year. We did the first call this year, 14th January, and ended, we in the process going to start. And so we also saying that a maximum threshold of application is up to 40,000 euros. 40,000 euros is the max that you can apply for. And it will be at the UN Forex rates. And the project duration, whatever project you'd want to implement, please be mindful, you need a 1-year calendar, 12 months. So don't bring us a proposal of 6 months. Don't bring us a proposal of a 15 months and try and convince us. Please play within the guiding principles and the main rules thereof. So that is what we would want to do. Again, we want to encourage everybody. We don't want projects that are being funded by other project partners or another EU funded project. So maybe you go to another EU project, you take 20%, and then you come and say, okay, I have this 20%, but we want to see how you would be able to generate that and work with us. So at this point, Kwame will take over and take us through the components of how to complete the application, whilst I take a little water. Thank you. So Kwame, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, the Chief Technical Advisor, Charles Saki, and the EU Delegation and Projects Manager. So we have been given a bit of the background of the subcontracting matching scheme and the guiding principles and the main rules that we will need to adhere to and follow. On this slide, what we are going to be looking at here is the various forms. We have developed some forms and templates that you need to follow in submitting your proposals, your applications. The first one is the bid submission form, and we'll show you this so that you have an idea how it looks like. But this is just a simple form that you would print on your letterhead. You would put the date that you want to submit, and it should be signed by a representative of the organization or the entity that is applying. We're just trying to show you this, so just give us a moment. Yeah, so we have it here, and that's the bid submission form. So on the date, we will show you when we're opening the bid and then when it's closing. Within that period, the date that you want to submit, you indicate your date. You put this on your letterhead, and the components everything should be maintained. We'll give you what the reference number for the call is, and you put that there in place of the hash signs, and then you sign. So that is pretty straightforward for the bid submission form. And then you stamp it as well. Now, the next one that we want to look at is the bidder information form. The bidder information form. Whilst we're opening it, the bidder information form, what we are trying to basically show you is we want to know who it is, who is applying for the support. We want to know a little bit about the organization, about the entity, about the association. We want to know your address, where you are located. We want to know what you do, what do you do. So we'll show you that in a bit.
Let me continue. I think there's just, I would share that soon.
All right. So we'll show you some of these things. Want to know a bit about the organization and what you have been doing in the past, where you are located. So that is it for the bidder information form. Then from there, we go on to the next critical form or templates that we have provided. Yes, so this here we have the bidder information form. Again, the reference number for the call will be indicated up there and the dates that you're submitting. And then this the name of the organization, your business registration. So you need to be a registered entity. It could be with the Registrar General's department. It could be with, if it's a cluster, maybe Department of Cooperatives or your district assembly. We need to know that registration number, and you attach a copy of the registration. Then your physical address, where you are located, where the business or the entity is located. Then also we want to know your contact information, the telephone, your email, websites, if you have any. For telephone, what we have seen in the past and application round is that some organizations tend to provide the general organization number. For example, maybe if it's Accra, that starts with 0302. That is not bad, but we also need somebody, a reference per somebody we can contact in case there might be the need for some further clarifications. So the mobile number of a key person needs to be added to that. And then a brief overview of the main business activities or services, what it is you do on a daily basis, what is your organization about? We want to know that. And then here, the bidder authorized representative. So here we're saying there is somebody that would serve as a liaison and a contact person with WACOMP. We want to know the name of that person. We want to have the contact details of the person, mobile, and then email. And then also, again, we want to just have an idea. We want to know if your organization has been a beneficiary of EU or UNIDO support in the past. If so, what is the nature of the support? If you haven't been, you can just leave that and just indicate that no, you haven't received any support. But if you have received any support, we would like to know what the support entailed, what it covered, what was the impact or the benefits that came out of the projects that you were implementing, which year you received that support and which year you implemented the projects, and then also the program under which that support was made available. So this is basically the bidder information form. Now from here, we go on to the next template of form in the application process, and that is the technical proposal form. The technical proposal form. And this is a form that you need to pay attention to when filling. Now in the technical proposal form, in the first part, you notice that we provide you a bit of the context or background of the subcontracting matching scheme so that it helps you and guides you when writing your proposals. You can just easily be making reference to ensure that what you are doing aligns with what UNIDO wants to achieve and what the EU is expecting from you. So you provide us a description of your intervention, what it is you want to do. You provide us that description, and then you go on to provide us your expected outputs, your deliverables and outcomes that you are expecting. We're showing you this in the technical proposal. So yes, it continues here. So you see your project outputs, you provide us that information 2.1 there, to which the proposed intervention relates. So we have the outputs, we have our things that we have indicated that these are what we want to achieve, exports and certain other things. Which ones are related to? Relevance of the intervention to WACOMP project objectives, and then you describe the developmental impact of the proposed intervention. As because with the UN and the EU, we are all working with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And this, we believe that the proposals, whichever ones intervention you are looking at, would impact on one of the SDGs. Would like to know which ones you are working with. And then your expected outcomes, what you expect to achieve, what you expect to be the result at the end of the day after your implementation, you implement your project. So this is something that we want to know. Then you go on to provide some further details. You know, in the first part, it is brief and then you summarize it. But now we want you to provide a little more details on your project, describing in a bit more detail about your organization, what it is you are seeking the support to do. That is what we describe as the scope of supply. So give us some details there, and you give us a work plan or a project schedule. We will show you a simple Gantt chart after this template, but what we want to see is the main activities that you want to undertake, the timelines that are associated with them, the milestones, and then also the resources that you would require in order to achieve these project objectives and activities. And then the time scale associated with each of them. Also, we want to know this as well. Resources that you require to be able to do them, we want you to see them in the work plan. Now, also your co-contribution, that forms at least 20% of the entire amount that you'll be looking for. We want to know also how you have arrived at that 20%. We say at least, so it can be more than that, but we want to know how you arrived at this co-contribution. So you give us a breakdown of the co-contribution. Is it some resources you are provided? Because we are not saying that it has to be in cash only. It can be also in kind. So if it is in kind, what are you using in kind as part of the co-contribution? We want to know that. If it is part of your staff time and things, we would like to know. And then project management arrangements, how you're going to organize yourself in the whole project. And you may need a number of staff or persons, resource people to be able to implement the projects or your intervention, the number of people involved, and then what is the organizational structure that you are working with to implement it, who is the key person, and then who are those working on that. Now we also mentioned subcontracting, and number 4 there. Subcontracting, what we are saying here is that depending on your intervention, you might say that certain aspects depend on other entities, or you are engaging other entities to provide you key inputs to be able to implement your proposed intervention. We would like to know who these entities are, and then what their impact is upon your proposal and your intervention, so that we know everybody that we are dealing with in your proposal and in your application. So special attention should be given to providing a clear picture of the role of each entity and how everyone will be managed. So it wouldn't be sufficient to just state that we are involving this organization or that entity without giving us that what role they play in the proposal and how you would monitor to ensure that whatever support they are providing you is actually delivered. And now we know that there might be various risks, and that may come up along the line. We want to know that you have thought through the proposal, you have identified various risks that could arise, and you are also developing mitigation measures that would be able to deal with the risks to ensure that we wouldn't have a situation where you say we couldn't implement it because of this and that unforeseen risk. So describe measures that will be put in place to mitigate this risk, and that is very important to us. And then also we go to reporting and monitoring. You are the one implementing the project, but what mechanisms are you putting in place to report to UNIDO WACOMP? And then how are you monitoring? Would you be monitoring also your projects? We would also show you along the line a proposed reporting scheme, but we want to see you integrate it in your work and see also how you yourself, you'll be reporting and monitoring what you're doing. Because as I said, you take your eyes off something, it goes bad. There's a tendency for it to go wrong. And then your project personnel, who are the key personnel that you would be using in the project? We want to know these people, we want to see their CVs, we want to know their backgrounds and be sure that these people have demonstrated qualification and expertise that would contribute to success of the projects. So it is not an opportunity to just include your staff and think that UNIDO would provide money to pay the salaries or wages of your staff. We want to ensure that the people that you are adding to the project, they have relevance, they have the expertise, they have the qualification to ensure that you are able to achieve your objectives. And then any other information that you think would be relevant and necessary for us to know in evaluating your project, and that would be relevant to the success of your project, you can provide that to us as well. Now we'll show you a sample of the Gantt chart, the work chart, to guide you in when preparing the work plan. So this is just a guide for you to look at, and then you can follow with it, or you can also develop your own. But when you look at this, you take a look at this, as we said, whatever you are doing must be implemented or achieved within a 12-month period. So you see it starts from month 1 up to month 12. And you can break it down. Generally, we have 4 weeks per month. So week 1, week 2, week 3. And then the activities, you break them down, outline them for us. Activity 1A, activity 1B. That means that there might be a major activity, and then it may have sub-activities. You may have activity 2, and then it goes on. Your reports to activity 4, activity 5, you submit your intermediate report, your progress report, your final report, and you indicate along the time scale what activities, which week you'll be implementing which activities throughout the 12-month period. And then at the bottom of this table or this chart, you provide a legend or a key that explains the various activities that you have put in your work plan on a weekly basis and a monthly basis, what they stand for, what they represent, so that the information is clear and then it can be easily understood by everyone. So this is just a guide for you to follow. Then from this, the next component that we would want to see is the financial proposal or the commercial proposal. And here too, we have a simple template or guide here for you to follow. And you need to put your information into this template. The commercial proposal here, you would see, again, we have indicated clearly the amount maximum that you can apply for, and also that we would support maximum 80%. Now we want to see in cedis and then in euros as well. So we have indicated our exchange rates at the moment that you can use, and we want to see your contribution. And this part, the first part, is a summary of the whole commercial proposal, the entire commercial proposal, what you are requesting from WACOMP and what you are contributing yourself. And then you indicate that in percentages for us as well, the percentage of the whole budget that WACOMP will be providing and what you will also be providing. Now, in addition to that, we want a breakdown of this commercial proposal. Here, as much as possible, we would want a lot more detail in this. So activity and the cost category. So if you're going to be engaging, for example, you buy machinery, you want to buy a cluster network, you want to purchase some machinery. So you indicate it's that your machinery, and you indicate the costs that may be a category, it's a capital item. If it is personnel, you indicate it's the cost category, and then the activity, what these people will be doing specifically. So you don't just say staff, or you don't simply say personnel and then you say you think that would suffice. No, that wouldn't do. Personnel, you indicate personnel will do this research, personnel will do this training, the personnel will do this and that activity. And we know all those are categories under personnel. So you give that breakdown, which parts you would want WACOMP to finance, you indicate that there, and which part of it would also be your co-contribution. You also indicate the amounts there for us. And then at the bottom of it, you sum them up. So the subtotal that you want WACOMP to support, and then the subtotal that yourselves will be providing as co-contribution. And then you sum the two together and you have the total costs. So that is it for the commercial proposal. So we would like you to pay attention to that. And then we go on to the next one and the templates, which is a due diligence self-evaluation. A due diligence self-evaluation. Now we want you to assess yourself. We would assess you, but we also want you to also assess yourself, and by certain measures and by certain criteria. And here we provide the criteria. Some may apply to you, which yes, indicate as yes. Some may not apply, no, non-applicable. And then if you don't have what it takes, in that case, you indicate no. So this is the indicators. Now there is a rating. You can rate yourself high in the risk, or you rate yourself significant risk, or you can rate yourself a moderate risk, or you rate yourself low based on the questions. And there are points that you give for each of these risks. If it is a high risk, it is 4 points. If it is a significant risk, you give yourself 3 points. If it's a moderate risk, 2 points are put there, and then low risk, 1 point. Now, in doing this, we want you to understand that we'll show you it is the average number of points calculated should be compared to the points rating above and assign a corresponding risk rating. Now, numbers would need to be rounded up. So there are sections to this. When you rate yourself, you add up the rating and you divide by the number of questions in that section, and that would give you the risk rating at that point. And that is what you round up between 0.1 to 0.49, and then you indicate it rounded to the closest whole number between 0.5 to 0.99. That is how we would want you to go about it. So let's look at some of the various components. The first part of it is that you look at your organization, the general organization. How well are you organized? Your structure, your staffing, your management system. Do you think that you are very well organized? You have everything in place, and therefore you either indicate yourself low, or you think that your structure, you might need some improvement. So it could be moderate or it could be significant. You look at your accounting policies that you have in place, whether you have them in place or not. You look at your internal audit systems that you have in place, and you rate yourself as well. And then also your reporting, internal reporting and reporting to external bodies, and then also information technology systems, IT systems that you have in place to ensure that if there is any unlikely events of some hazard taking place, you don't lose all the information that you have. You rate yourself as well, and you provide some comments, brief comments, to explain why you gave yourself that rating. Then we go on to the next component of the due diligence rating here. After the IT, then so this is risk related to the general overview of the organization. Now, the next aspect of it is we begin to ask you now, that was a summary. So we ask you, are you a legally registered entity? Yes, no. We want to know, and this is where you rate yourself. So all this information will feed into the first table that you saw, which was a summary, an overview. Now, if you are not registered, you indicate no. If you are registered, you indicate yes. And you provide copies as we indicated. Have you received resources from the UN in the past? Here it indicates yes or indicates no or non-applicable. Now, do you have statutory reporting requirements? And are you in compliance with them? Reporting to maybe the Registrar General, like filing your annual returns, or to the tax authorities or any other thing. We want to know this. So you rate yourself yes or no. And do you have any legal action pending against you? Here too, we want to know yes, no, or non-applicable. And as explained, so there are 4 questions here. So total number of questions is 4. And then the number of questions not non-applicable. If there was any that were non-applicable, you indicate it. Let's, for example, if it is 1, you say 1. Then the number of applicable questions. So if, for example, here you said 1 was non-applicable, then you have only 3 applicable questions. And then the risk point, whether you give yourself a 4, a 3, or a 2 at any point, you sum them up. And then the total implementing partner overall risk rating, you divide that total risk points by the number of applicable questions. So that is the notes provided that you divide the total number of risk points by the number of applicable questions. So this is for the first part. The second part is, again, your organizational structure, your staffing. Do you have clear reporting lines and accountability within your organization? We would like to know. So we would like to see as well your organizational structure added towards your application, supporting your application. We also would like to know your accounting and finance functions. Do you have adequate staff competent enough to be able to handle your finance and accounting issues? We would like to know, and then you provide us some comments there. Now, have you received any, do you have training policies for accounting and finance staff? And are these trainings conducted regularly? Then do you have documented internal control framework? We would also like to know, you give yourself a yes or a no there. And again, you do the rating just as we've explained and described above, and then the number of applicable questions here, and then your total risk point. So we go to the third aspect of it, of the due diligence. Here again, your accounting policies and practices. We want to know a bit more in detail. What accounting policies are you using? Are they internationally accepted accounting standards? Or you are just doing your simple own method within your organization? We would like to know here, for example, are your accounts audited regularly, or you don't have audited accounts at all? We would like to know here. Do you have written policies and procedures covering routine financial management and administrative activities? We would like to know these as well. And are these accessible? If we want to take a look at these, are these available that we can take a look at? And then do you maintain contractual agreements with other offices or entities? You know, as business people, you may either purchase things from others, or you might have those you are supplying to, or you're exporting, or one way or the other. Do you have contracts with these entities that you have in place and you make reference to? So, or is everything just kept in the head of the business owner? We would like to know this. And then do you have a process to ensure expenditures are in compliance with your work plan and your contractual agreements that you have with other entities? We would like to know this and see that you have these in place. So again, you rate yourself yes or no or non-applicable, and you give the appropriate risk points. And then you do the total number of risk points, and then your overall risk rating there. Again, you divide by the number of applicable questions. And then we go to the fourth component, financial and internal audits. As stated earlier on, are your financial statements audited by an independent auditor? And is the audit of your financial statements conducted using international standards? These are things we would like to know as well. When they are your internal audits or external audit is conducted, were there any major accountability issues that were identified? Would like to know this. Major, in the preparation of the audits, there might be just a few clarifications the auditors may require for, but those are not what we're referring to. But there might sometimes be key queries that they may raise, major issues. We would like to know if there have been such in the past. And then, have there been any recommendations made by the auditors prior to the audit reports or management letters that have not yet been implemented? So maybe in your recent past audits, the auditors may have raised some concerns or some queries that you either have not implemented or are in the process of implementing. We would like to know what these are and how you are addressing them. Is the internal auditor, if you have one, sufficiently independent to make critical assessments? You know, we don't want a situation where the independent or your internal auditor is just an appendage to the senior management. So to whom does this internal auditor report? And we would like to know these as well. And then here, there are 5 questions here. So the total number of questions is 5. You do your risk points, and then again, you divide by the total number of applicable questions. And then the last component of the due diligence is your reporting and monitoring. What is the frequency of preparation of financial statements? Do you prepare financial statements only when maybe you want to approach a financial institution for support? Or do you prepare them regularly and frequently? Management reports and audited financial reports. Does the reporting system link the financial information with the work plan's physical progress? So your financial information and your reporting system, does it link to your company or your organization's, your entity's work plan, your budget, what activities you have planned? Is there a correlation, or each of them are independent? your actual expenditures within what you have budgeted and then what you are programming, are they also, is there a correlation? Can you compare them? Is there comparison between them? We would like to know these as well. And then, are you a solvent organization? That is, your total assets greater than your total liabilities for the past 3 years. That is because we want to know that this, you are not an organization or an applicant that would probably is near it's on the verge of collapse. We want to know that you are a strong organization, and that is why, as mentioned earlier, sustainability, so that 5 years down the line, we can see that you are still operating and what you implemented is still standing. And again, you do the rating and then you provide it for us there. So the due diligence, this is an overview of the entire due diligence. And then now the last component is the IT systems. What information technology systems you have in place? Do you have any data and network security measures in place, policies and procedures to ensure that hackers in this modern age, you backed up your information nicely so that you are preventing from hack? Your antivirus systems are in place to make sure that in the likely event of anything, you can easily restore your information. You have licensing in place for your any softwares that you may be using. You maybe have some accounting software that you are using. You have licenses in place for them. Are you using a computerized financial management system, or you're doing a manual, maybe bookkeeping system, as we saw on Monday? We would like to know what system you have in place. And then if you have IT systems in place, are your IT staff adequately skilled? And do they have the confidentiality, integrity to ensure that your data and everything is kept very well? So you have adequate IT, whether you have adequate IT staff, we would want to know about this as well. So this is the due diligence. These are the areas that we want you to look at and to rate yourself, to score yourself throughout as part of the application. So you do this and attach it to the application that you will be submitting. So these are the 5 key templates that you need to adhere to. And you notice that we have indicated them in structure. So we would like you to follow the structure that we have provided. First is the bid submission form. Then you go to the bidder information form, and then followed by the technical proposal. And then also you have the commercial or financial proposal. Then the due diligence self-evaluation. Then in addition, you can attach any supporting information that we think would be very necessary for your proposal. Now, after these are the components. Without any of these, as we indicate, components of a complete application. If any of these is missing in your application will be rejected immediately outright at the opening of the day the applications are open. We assess and we check. We have a method, we check all of these. Once there's one missing, your application is rejected, immediately thrown out. So you need to pay attention to this. Then we'll go on to other components of the that we want to draw your attention to in the application and in preparing a proposal. There are aspects of eligibility criteria and aspects of things that are ineligible that we would like you to know about, and so that you can pay attention to them. So here, all right, so now technical proposal. Now we're saying that you should be ready in the reporting within a technical proposal indicates this, that you have a financial implementation plan that you can produce and submit to WACOMP within 2 weeks of the contract date. When a contract is given to you for you to sign, you give us a final implementation plan within 2 weeks of that. And then after that, we are saying that we would need an interim report maximum of 2 months from the date the contract was signed. You started your activities. Within the first 2 months, we want to know how you are doing on implementing your project. And then after that, within the space of the 12 months, every 3 months, we want to see regular periodic reports of what you are doing as a match with your work plan that you have indicated. We saw the Gantt chart. You provide us periodic reports every 3 months. It must be related to the activities that you have put in there, and showing us what you have achieved, what resources you have used, and then what you may need after that. And the final reports at the end of the entire 12 months, the completion of the project, each in 3 copies. We would like to know this. And then here too, we're saying that you must be ready to start after about a week of the project, of signing the contract. You must be ready to commence whatever proposal. And as well explained above, so I don't need to go much into this, your intervention should be demand driven. So if you're an SME applying, you need to make sure that you are working with a big cluster and the people are aware of what you are doing. Now, these are key qualification criteria that you need to pay attention to. Your certificate of incorporation, that is your registration information. You need to know that. Without that, your application will be put out. Quality standards. Are there any internal quality standards? Remember the 5 C's of conform that you have in place that you are using within your organization. We want to know if you are now working to meet some application regulatory standards. We'd like to know what effort you are making or how you intend to achieve that. So quality standards. Contractual, it's the contract will provide you a copy of that. You would have a look at that. That's eventually when you are successful, you need to assign append your signature to. And then experience. As an organization or an applicant, what experience do you have in your proposed intervention? We want to know that. First, as an organization, and then secondly, the staff that you'll be using, what experience do they have? Please provide us that information. And then the financial qualification, your profitability, that you should not be a loss-making organization or entity. So your profit margin there should be a positive profit margin. We want to know that you're profitable. And then you are solvent. That means that your assets are greater than your liabilities. So if you have borrowed so much and then you have little assets, that might work against you. Then your turnover, that is the revenue or income that you make. If you are an SME or an association, we would like it to be at least 2 times the value of the amount you are applying for. But if you're a cluster or a network, then we would like it to be 1.5, at least 1.5 times. And then as indicated in the due diligence evaluation, is there any litigation in progress? We would like to know this. These are key qualification criteria. These are the bottom, the standards, the first things that we'll look out for before even looking into detail at what you have written out in your proposal. And then followed with this, the key qualification. We'll look at some other things too that you need to pay attention to and also follow to ensure that your application is assessed and well received. Now here we're going to look at eligible costs. What costs are eligible when preparing your commercial budgets, your proposal? Now the cost of staff that you would use in the project or your intervention, that is eligible and something that is acceptable to us that we can finance, that WACOMP will take care of. Now, local travel and subsistence cost for persons taking place in the action per UN and development partner guidelines. So we're saying local costs because we would explain, you would see it when we come to non-eligible. So maybe part of your activity, you may need to travel to another region in Ghana. That is fine with us, and we can look at. If you want to purchase some equipment, as explained, maybe a cluster and network, you may need to purchase some equipment to help upgrade the capacity of the cluster or the network. That is also something that can be accepted, but it should not exceed 50% of the amount you are requesting for. So that should be noted. The equipment that you purchase, there might be naturally depreciation or some rental or leasing as part of it. That is also an eligible cost that we can look at. And then in implementing your intervention, there will be consumables that will be needed. These are all aspects that also are acceptable. Now, cost deriving directly from the requirements of the contracts. For example, you might be working with organizations or people in a rural area. You need to disseminate some information. You might say that our people need some more information or awareness and how to apply the GMP or GAP or other standards with maybe Ghana Standards Authority or Food and Drugs, for example. You want to disseminate this information, and some of them, it might need to be translated into their local dialects for them to be able to understand. These are costs that are acceptable to us, and so they form part of the eligible costs. Now we'll go on and look at the ineligible costs. Now, in writing your proposal, some of you may say you want to use the services of a consultant to develop your proposals, and the consultant is charging you a certain amount. Now, you cannot pass the cost of that consultant onto the project, that the project should pay for development of your proposal. That would be struck out or be taken out. Again, you may have taken some loans from some entities, and the interest that you are paying, think that, oh, there is some money here from WACOMP and the EU, so let me bring the interest here. No, that will not be acceptable. Any losses you are making, that is why in the key qualification, we ask that you should not be a loss-making entity. Again, if there is what we call double dipping, any money or activity that currently has been financed by another EU fund or grant, you cannot use that also as part of your co-contribution or anything. So that is an ineligible cost. Or maybe you received a grant to purchase a certain equipment and you haven't finished implementing that particular project, and you want to use that same equipment as your co-contribution. No, that would not be acceptable. And you cannot use the funds to purchase land or building. That is also an ineligible cost. Currency exchange losses, no. So when you are developing your commercial proposal, you need to take care to ensure that you integrate and then you take care of currency exchange fluctuations, because you want to pass any currency exchange loss onto the projects. That will not be acceptable. Now, some of you as associations and organizations, you may have, just an example, maybe 20 staff, but maybe you may need just 3 or 4 for the project. But some may think that this is some money that, okay, let me add on some other stuff so that their salaries should be paid by the project. Those salary costs will be taken out. And your regular overhead elements, your regular activities that you are doing in your operations daily, so far as these are things that can go on without the project, they are your regular daily overheads and cannot be brought onto the organization. Now, certain allowances for workshops and trainings, WACOMP will not pay for that. And then also saying that, oh, I use my internal staff to do this and that activity, and I need to pay them some consultancy fees. If you put anything like that within their commercial budgets, we would take those items out. Again, in ineligible costs, there are some other things that we want you to take note of that are also ineligible costs. Now, payment of allowances from other sources covered by other development partners, which we said no double dipping. We would not accept that. Now, payment in cash or kind over the approved rate stated in the agreement document. The UN has approved rates. Maybe you want to do workshop at hotels. There's the rates that would be paid for. If you use any rate that is higher than that, we will just stick to the rates that we have. And this information will be made available unto you. But anything above that, you would pay for that yourself. And as indicated, regular management training is ineligible. Now, the UN is not subject to any taxes. So your tax obligations and duties and things cannot be brought into the cost because it will not be accepted. If you are doing any training and you are using your own facility, you cannot charge the project for using your own maybe conference room or so as the training venue, as an example. So that is also ineligible. And then international travel. Remember that in the eligible, we said local travel is acceptable, but you want to attend an exhibition in another country, or you want to go and meet some prospective buyers in another country. That is international, and it would not be acceptable as a cost item. So it's an ineligible cost. Now, when we're evaluating the cost breakdown, we look at the price. There are various components. We look at the price and then we look at the cost breakdown. That is why we said it should be as detailed as possible. Again, we look at your co-contribution and the threshold, at least 20%. So does it meet it? We'll look at this and evaluate it. Your mandatory requirements related to daily subsistence allowance, DSA. Are you meeting these things, these rates that will be provided? We would assess these in the evaluation. And then the technical component of your proposal, is it aligned to WACOMP objectives, what WACOMP seeks to achieve? Or you have a nice fanciful idea that you think that for you it sounds good and therefore you submit it. Insofar as it is not aligned with WACOMP objectives, it would be turned down. Then your target beneficiaries, again, it has been stated, but let me re-echo this, that the beneficiaries, we want it to benefit a lot more people, a lot more clusters, a lot more networks. And so you cannot just apply to say you are developing only yourself as the applicant, the association, the entity, the SME. So there must be target beneficiaries, and it should show clearly how these beneficiaries would benefit from the proposed intervention. Then execution and work plan. How are you going to execute? How are you going to implement your proposal, the various activities as shown in the work plan? You break them down and then you describe them for us. And then your management and your human resources, your facilities as an organization, your organizational structure, and then the persons that you'll be using. We want to see their CVs and see their competence, that they have what it takes to be able to deliver on the project. So these are things that we'll look out for in evaluating. And then they will be scored. And this is showing you how these items will be scored. The pricing has a score of 20%. That is your financial or commercial proposal, 20% of the overall score. The technical has an overall score of 55%. And this is broken down into 3 parts. Alignment with the proposed intervention of WACOMP. WACOMP project objectives and outcome, 15%. Whether there is an alignment. Again, secondly, the target beneficiaries, a rating weight of 20% is put there because that is very important to us. And then thirdly, the third component of the technical, your execution, how you would do it. Is it feasible? The method you're proposing. And so 25% is put there. And then after the technical, then the management and human resources. We'll be rating it 25% based on whether you have used adequate staff and they have the required expertise, the required skills, the required experience. So that is also 20%. So we'll rate that and then we'll do provide a score and for all the applications, and then we'll come in the end to see have the overall score and know those that will be successful. Now the evaluation is done through a process. When the bids are received, until the closing date of the bids, none of the bids are opened. They are all kept sealed as they are received. And then after the bids is closed, then we invite the representative from the EU and then MOTI, and then together we open the bids in the presence of everyone, because we want to ensure it's a transparent process. And here, like we said, we'll check, does it have the bidder information? Does it have the bid submission? Does it have all those elements? And then we take them. So the opening that is how it is done, and that is where we check. And any one that doesn't have all the components is then put out here. Your application must be submitted in hard copy, but then it must also have a soft copy on a pen drive. So please give us a clean pen drive with a soft copy. And here, let me add here that what we have seen from the previous round, that they are mostly in PDF, which is fine with us, but some scan them as in a picture within a PDF. Picture within a PDF. As much as possible, you can make it a PDF, but it doesn't need to be in a picture format in a PDF. So please take note of that. Then when doing the full evaluation, the evaluation is done, there's a whole subcommittee that does it. It comprises representatives from UNIDO, from the EU, from MOTI, and then value chain experts. So if it's the cassava, there's an expert that is brought in to also give an assessment of the bid that you have submitted or your proposal. And the evaluation, as we've indicated, will comprise the qualification requirements, your technical and commercial proposal, and then also the risk and all the other components as well. So that's the evaluation process, how it goes through, the whole process that it goes through. Now we go on to the next component, and this is how we anticipate the entire process to go through. So the call for proposals will be put out through an RFP notice, and within 4 to 6 weeks, you have that period to prepare your proposals and to submit. So you submit them to the National Implementation Unit. The address you will see at the end, it's at Laboni, and you submit it here. And then when you submit it, we do a preliminary examination. When it is open, the preliminary examination involves opening of the bids, making sure that all the various components are in place, and the necessary supporting documentation, like your certificate of incorporation, are all in place. That forms the preliminary examination. Then we go to the due diligence self-evaluation. We take that due diligence that you did and we verify it to ensure that the rating that you gave to yourself, it is a fair rating. And we estimate this to take about 4 weeks. And together with that, there is the full evaluation that is done on the technical and commercial proposals that you submitted. And then we go to approval. Then we go to the preparation of the contract. And then after that, you commence activity. Then we have the monitoring and evaluation. And as we have said, there are various actors involved in the entire process. So there's the National Implementation Unit of UNIDO, and there's the Evaluation Subcommittee, and there's UNIDO allotment holder, and there's the Technical Committee, which includes the value chain experts and others who also are all part of the evaluation process. So with this, we'll now look at a summary of the core one. My colleague, my Chief Technical Advisor will take this, or I continue.
All right. So thank you very much, Kwame, for taking us through the presentation up until this point. So I want to quickly take our attendees through what happened in the first bit. So in the first awareness bit, we had an awareness seminar on the 18th of December. Thankfully, in December, there was no COVID in Ghana. Life was normal, the old normal. So we all met face-to-face, had, laughed, and exchanged pleasantries with our international partner, Francois, at the AGI office at Trade Fair. We then went through exactly what we are doing today. So this is also the awareness session for call 2. Unfortunately, we are doing it online. So call 1 was done. Then we agreed after the 18th that we're going to launch the first call on the 13th of January. And then members said, oh, 13, there's a mystery figure, 13, we don't want 13. So we listened to members and we decided to move to the 14th of January. So 14th, we launched the call for proposal. Then 6 weeks elapsed, and then we moved on to the 5th of March when everything was brought in and it was done. On the 7th, on the 5th, then we had an opening. So we had a NIU is the National Implementation Unit, which is the WACOMP office, and then the evaluation subcommittee met, and then we looked at everything at that place. So EU was present, MOTI was present, and UNIDO staff also present, and we opened it. We also had our colleague Ebe, who was also on a mission in Ghana at that point, also joining. I'm trying to explain this process because I think when we had a awareness on the 18th, people were skeptical that won't somebody influence another person, won't your document be rejected? So we tried to explain this process to tell you how clean and how open it was. Then we had a preliminary examination and due diligence that was done, completed 7th of April. So it took time to get through all documents, and then we had a technical evaluation from between the 8th to the 16th of April. Then we had started teleworking, so it was more on e-meeting with the partners. Then we had the approval, that was a NIU committee, the ESC, the evaluation subcommittee, and UNIDO, sitting again on the 16th, and then to work on that. Eventually, the contract issuance was done will be done in June. I mean, today is the second day in July, so we should have it soon coming. And then implementation evaluation will continue upwards. This is to give you an overview of all that happened. So we had 16 offers received, and then we opened them. Unfortunately, just like Kwame have explained, one bid was rejected at opening because of incomplete mandatory document. So the 5 mandatory documents, we please entreat you to make sure you bring all. If all the mandatory documents are not in, you will not be assessed. So 15 offers were then taken or subjected to the preliminary evaluations, and 6 passed the preliminary examination. So as you can see from the chart to my right, you would find that single entity, we had 8 of them, we had 4 associations and 4 public institutions. Majority of the bids did not meet mandatory qualification requirements in terms of experience and financial. So that already disqualified some members. And then some proposals from single entity organizations, some single organization, self-proprietary or whatever, did not also show clear linkage with benefits to the cluster. I've seen already some questions to that effect. So the question is that yes, single entity or single organizations can apply, but please show clear linkage, clear benefit to the cluster that you operate in. So if you are cosmetic and you are applying as an entity, show what connections you would have with other members within the sphere, that the space that you work in, so they can also benefit. It's not, we are not building individual companies, but we are building capacity within the clusters. And some proposal for single entity organizations mostly also focus on benefits to themselves rather than the clusters, which I've already explained. Some proposals were also outside the scope and objectives of WACOMP. I took time in the beginning to explain the scope and the objectives of WACOMP. So if you are outside our scope, if you are doing anything, if you are doing oil palm, if you are doing something else, you are doing cocoa and you apply, if you have the best of concepts to support the cocoa clusters, you will still not be considered because you fall outside of the scope of this subcontracting. And then CVs and personnel, project personnel in some cases did not show adequate competence. You're giving money and we want the money to address, we want to see competence, give us CVs that can do the job and we'll be able to move on. So quickly, we just want you to have a quick snapshot of what happened. So our three winners in the just ended call, the first call, one of them is Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. So they put in a cluster to work in the cassava cluster in Tokokoe in the Volta region, whole municipality. So basically their activities was to build capacity in IPM and also produce cassava for a processing unit. So it was about also replicating training for the cluster members within the whole municipality so that they'll be able to produce cassava for that. We also will talk about post-training monitoring. So here we're talking about sustainability and monitoring during and harvest. The expected results is to boost quality in terms of products. So cassava products cultivated. We're also looking at increased productivity to increase the productivity of the farmers so that once you go through the demos, you will get to know everything it takes to increase their productivity. We're also looking at connecting farmers to buyers. So one step of the chain was to lift farmers so that they'll be able to sell to the processing unit and also support the processing units when they produce high quality cassava flour to sell into other markets. And then adoption of good agricultural practices. So good gaps and then enhanced cluster development. So this was one of the proposals that was accepted. And it's straightforward and we see the benefit within the cluster. So this is what we expect to see. Let's have programs and proposals that benefit a bigger cluster and number of people. The second winner, one of them was also here. We're not talking about the first winner or the second, but one of the other winners that also came through was a Global Share Alliance. Global Share Alliance, they are looking at working in the value chains in the region of Greater Accra and Tamale in the northern region. So their activities was for product formulation. We talked about new products, so product formulation training on increased product quality in terms of training on packaging and other things that are geared towards making your products enhance the quality of the products for the market. They also talked about branding and market development training. So as we discussed earlier, it falls into what we expect as WACOMP, and also about market access facilitation. So in short, if you see the foreseen activities, they all fall very much in line with all the guiding principles that we had talked of. And this was also to open access, quality, market, and then all that. Then we looked at expected 50 SMEs improve their business capacity. We also have 50 female, that's a gender bit also coming in. We're looking at improved product quality and then also market established upstream and downstream. Then the third that was also considered was the University of Development Studies, which is based in Tamale. So this is the Tamale main campus, and they're looking at undertaking activities in the Upper East and then Upper West regions of Ghana. Also looking at the baseline to understand some of the processing effects on quality and quantity of share and other derived products. They also want to investigate, do a bit about crushing, roasting. All this would work to make sure that our quality of shea butter we produce up north in the country meets the international quality to be able to sell. We're also looking at developing technical solutions to improve processing efficiency, product quality, and occupational health and safety related issues. So this is what they also brought in. So for expected results, we see from this, we expect to see improved material inputs involved in processing shea kernel into butter. We also would have a technical report on the optimal conditions for crushing, for roasting, for milling, boiling of shea butter. We also have a technical report developed prototype for shea kernel roaster. And then we would also have a curriculum training developed for health and safety. In fact, sometimes when we walk into some of the processing centers, the conditions of processing, it's not the best. So this also came in handy. So this is what the three people who came through brought in. So now for call 2, I think all the things that we've talked about, this is the timelines. Monday, we would send the request for proposal out. So between the 6th and 14th of August, 6th July to 14th August, you have all the time to prepare, consult, and give us your document. On the 16th, between the 17th and 21st of August, we will do the preliminary examination. So on the first day, we'll have EU joining us, you have MOTI joining us, we'll have some of the observers from the cluster also joining us, the strategic committee joining us for the opening. And that is the most transparent thing we can get to make sure that I'm not slaughtering my friends in or pushing my cluster that I'm associated with. So it's a very open process. So between 17th and 21st, that process will be done. Due diligence and self-examination verification will be done between 24th and 11th of September. Technical and commercial evaluation will be done between 14th and 25th of September. We'll go for evaluation subcommittee meeting for approval between the 28th and 2nd of October. We anticipate that contract issuance would be done between the 5th and 16th of October, and implementation by the bidders should be done by the 19th. I must also state here that please, when you are selected or we come to you for due diligence and we send emails, as much as possible, please try and respond as soon as possible. That helps us to keep within this timeline so that by 19th, you should have everything to go on. All this one have already been talked about. The components of application is all that Kwame have gone through with us. So make sure, please, you have your due diligence form done. And if you have any requests for clarification, please, you can send them in writing and address them to us. You address it to me and you copy Kwame. So all requests should be addressed to the Chief Technical Advisor, WACOMP, and then the Subcontracting Matching Scheme. That is my email, c.saki@unido.org, and you have k@kum. Please look at the @kum. It's not there, it's the ADJE-cum, @unido.com. And then we would address all your concerns. So a quick summary of the process is that a notice of request for proposal will be sent out on the 6th. Interested bidders, please send your email, send us an email to me and copy Kwame, and then we will send these documents to you. So the package we'll send to you would be the Word package of the request for proposal notice, the terms of reference, the qualification requirements, all the forms, the bid submission form, bidder information form, the technical proposal form, financial proposal form, and due diligence evaluation form. All will be sent to you so that you start your process. And then within the time frame, we believe we will be able to address and we'll get as many of our cluster members and associations and networks getting what it needs to be solved. Yes, on this note, we want to thank you very much. And I see we have some questions, so we will quickly come up to the questions. So at this stage, Kwame, myself, and my other colleagues, if the questions, I'll read the questions out, and either Kwame, my program manager, or even Francois, who is also in the background, would support us. If there's something that we are not clear, we'll seek clarification and we'll get back to you. So the first question reads, please, is it possible for a company to apply to this grant? I think this question has been answered. We said, yes, it's possible, but you must clearly demonstrate that whatever you are applying for goes a long way to benefit the bigger cluster. The second question, what are some of the components of the 20% co-contribution? Kwame, can you take that up for us?
All right, thank you. So the co-contribution, you could use part of your staff time as part of your co-contribution. You could also use, maybe using some of your equipment as part of your co-contribution as well. Also, some of the activities that you want to undertake. Some of them you could say that there's an activity we want to undertake as part of the entire project, but we would finance as the applicants, we would pay for the cost of this and that component out of it. So those are some of the things that could form part of the co-contribution. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The next question I give it to my program manager, Pablo. Somebody is asking, can one organization submit multiple ideas for the grant?
Thank you. Can one organization submit multiple ideas? Yes, they can. The problem will be where they will be selected, because there's a threshold per company of 40,000 euros. That's a limit that was explained. So depending on that, it can be the case that an association submits multiple and they all add up to less than 40. Yes, but then I would suggest, then why don't you submit one single proposal?
All right, thank you very much for that. I take the next two questions. Somebody is saying, yes, you heard right, that the organization can also apply. The single organizations can apply, but you must show clearly that whatever you are applying goes in line to support every the cluster in which you operate. So the next question says, I am a consultant, providing support, access to market, access to finance, etc., to an organization of micro enterprises in the said areas, cassava and fruits. Do I qualify as a consultant to present a proposal on behalf of the association to assess the WACOMP grants? Pablo Kwame.
In that case, I would recommend that you link with the association, and it's the association who submits the proposal. And I think there was, yes, that has more value if an association or a group of enterprises that form a cluster submits a proposal, and within that proposal you can say, well, the experts and will be this and this, and then you provide the CVs of the experts for the activities that they want to do.
Thank you. Can we use consultants and pay them on our own? I think it's, Kwame, I think you get a line of question.
If you're using, let's say, for example, you want to do training and the consultants, the role of the consultants is training. You can, yes, use the consultants, but you want to use consultants, for what reason do you want to use consultants? Because we don't want a situation you just bring on many consultants and there is nothing deliverable that can be shown, but majority of the money is just paid as consultancy fees. But if you want to pay them on your own, still as part of your co-contribution, you want to show, as indicated, best value for money. So in the first round, we saw people try to fill up the co-contribution with various items that you can't really put a value to, and we're very big, just to make up the 20%. So you need to ensure that you're using consultants. What exactly are they doing? You are paying them on your own, that's fine. But what are they doing, delivering, and making an impact on the entire project? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then somebody saying, is there a consultant that entrepreneurs in a cluster can contract to help refine or evaluate their application? I think we wouldn't say we have any consultant that you can get in touch with, but if you have somebody who can help you, assist you, guide you, help you refine your application, why not? You can always get that person to support you. But then mind you, in one of the ineligible costs, as Kwame explained, when somebody helps you to fine tune your document, you can't put the cost that the fellow is charging you onto, you can't pass that cost onto us. It would not be accepted. So you can find somebody to help you if you need help to reevaluate, to proofread your document and help shape one or two things. I think that is acceptable. Pablo, Kwame, any more to that? All right. There's one question, but it's not clear. Maybe the fellow can rewrite. Please, when it's an individual, the question is really not clear for me. Please, do you have other support for new startups who do not qualify for this bid? Pablo, you take it or I go ahead.
Go ahead, Charles.
All right, so yes, we have other things for startups. Obviously, for startups within a project space, we offer capacity building in terms of quality production, linking access to markets, and then doing everything to help you build your brand. Unfortunately, if you are asking for maybe giving direct financial injection into your startups, then that we do not have. But we have everything to support you apart from dropping money directly into your operations. So that is what we do. Okay, so the last question I take, and then we can be closing the session, is, does a limited liability company fall under the single organization? Yes, the single organization, a limited liability, falls under that. But we're saying that the door is not closed in your face, but whatever you write, you operate as a single entity, but in a cluster with other organizations or other actors. Ask them how you can write to benefit everybody and not only yourself. So I think the question has also been repeated. Yes, we say you can use consultants and pay them on your own to help you develop your documents or move in. The very last, this is very, very last. Kwame, can a company that isn't profitable yet but has the future prospects of being profitable apply? Well, then once it's not about companies. Okay, Kwame, take this one up.
The answer, I think you just note within the presentation that the mandatory requirements, financial, and that is for the first round why some organizations, applicants, they don't make it, that you need to be profitable. And so it's not just a company, it can be an association, it can be a cluster. Once you are not profitable at the moment, you are not eligible for this bid. But probably, as indicated by Charles, other support that we're providing, some technical capacity building and things. And then in the course of the line in the credit components, there are other things that WACOMP wants to be doing for SMEs. That is, we may help you and then identify various financing schemes out there and possibly provide some linkage. So there might be financing schemes, some that might be loans, some that might be equity investors. And then, so we would be working on this, and then some that are, I saw the question there of a startup and things. So we can look at some of these ones, and those that may have good ideas as we're working along, we may be able to refer you to other support schemes out there to help you grow your business until maybe you get to the point where you have the legs to stand on, then to apply for some support.
Thank you very much, Kwame. I take another one. I think it escaped my attention. Somebody wanted to find out that he applied, but he didn't get detailed information on the reasons why his proposal was not accepted. Detailed information will be sent to you. I don't know which category in which you fall, but like we indicated, generally, some of the applicants, either they did not provide some of the financials, or all the benefits that they wrote on was for the individuals and not for the cluster. And so I think there's a general agreement now after the ESC meeting, and that will be communicated to everybody. On this note, we want to thank all of you. I give the closing remarks to our program manager, Juan Pablo, to tell us a few things, to encourage us, to prep us and tell us that it's possible. Let's apply and let's get something. Pablo.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you for all the people who have gone through this informative session. Like we said in the beginning, apply. This is an opportunity to benefit and to contribute to the project. Be innovative. The best way to know whether you can receive something is that you go through the documentation again and you prepare your proposal. We are open also to receive questions when you are developing your proposals. But of course, remember that there are different evaluation stages. And the last evaluation is the evaluation subcommittee, who is the organ who takes the final decision. So just not to keep you longer, thank you very much again for the time that you have investment, and we hope that we see your proposals on the table in the next weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Thank you, Kwame. Thank you, Ibe. Thank you, Magde. Thank you, our colleagues, Na, Frank, and Joseph, and then Linda as well. So to wrap up, please remind you, tomorrow, 11 o'clock, we have the presentation, a webinar on good manufacturing practices, GMPs, 11 a.m. And please follow us on our social media handles, and then we would get in touch with you. Visit our website, wacompghana.org, and then you find information and recording of this also there. As Pablo also said in the closing remarks, Na for cosmetics, Joseph for cassava, and derivatives, Frank, they are all available to take preliminary clarifications beyond today and then till the whole process is launched. So if you have any preliminary clarifications, please get in touch with them and then they would guide you. Once we start the process, then you are on your own to get to that. We expect to get the emails from you so that on Monday, we would send all documents to interested associations and networks. On behalf of the WACOMP team, we thank you so much for investing time with us, staying with us in this informative session to get all the information needed. We thank you also, our colleague Francois, who joined us from South Africa. Francois, thank you. Kwame, thank you. Pablo, have a good afternoon. And to all listeners, we wish you all the best. And then we meet, hopefully, in August to announce a befitting winner. On that note, have a good lunch, stay safe, and then we meet in the coming weeks. Thank you. Bye.